Hey everybody, hope you're doing well. We are continuing our This is the Bible series, and we are in the book of Job, as we have been for the past few months now. And today we are looking at chapters 28 through 31. And with me today, I am joined by Pastor Blake Holder.
How's it going?
It's going pretty good.
You gave me some pretty difficult chapters here, Pastor Barry, so thank you.
Thank you for being, because not everybody's willing to kind of.
Just so you know, everybody, Pastor Barry has like a stapled several sheets of paper, and I have about 4 points on my phone and one thing underlined in all 4 chapters. So one of us is the teaching pastor here at Bethel, and one of us is not.
But this is going to work well. This is going to be awesome, though. Yeah, it's.
We'll see. You know, if you're watching this, then it went pretty good. So
yeah, if you're watching this right now, everybody approved of it, and we were good. But I mean, to your point, this is. I mean, you nailed it perfectly. This is also going to be out of all the videos that we've shot, we are doing this one almost in reverse order because of just the nature of it. I mean, there's just. Like typically, we'd start with chapter 28 and work our way through, but just kind of how it's set up, we're actually going to give an overview of chapters 29 through 31 and then go back to 28. With it being a poetic book, it's not necessarily in a chronological order the way Job is just, he's thinking, he's writing, things are coming out. And in this particular passage, it seems like in 29 through 31, he's reminiscing and asking all these questions, but he actually answers it in 28. And so, we're going to...
I'm already thinking of something.
Yeah.
Anytime you've ever been through a tough season, I don't know if anybody journals. I don't know if you journal, but I journal. And every now and then I'll go back and look at what I've written down in my journal. And a lot of times I will cycle back through things that I've struggled with or had a hard time with dealing with. But if you'll look a couple of entries before that, I kind of had the same problem and had a scripture there that I wrote down that went with it. So, I mean, it could very well be that Job is doing the same thing that we do, kind of cycling through different things when it's like, oh, wait a minute. If I just go back a couple of entries before this, I've already answered this question, just like you just said. He answers it in Job 28, but he's struggling in 29, 30, and 31. Yeah. So, I mean, I think just that alone is very relatable.
Oh, absolutely. And another thing that he does, to your point, is in our Bible studies we do on Wednesday nights with this, we call it the fight of faith, where Job, in one chapter, will... God's against me. His arrows are being fired at me. He has forsaken me, but I know my Redeemer lives. I know I'll see him face to face. And it's that. And in these seasons that a lot of people have gone through, Job especially, that are just unfathomably difficult.
Yeah.
That's the case. I mean, I can imagine it's 2 hours of my God can, and 1 hour of why didn't he, and then another hour of I trust his ways, and then another hour of oh man, just that. And you see it with Job. Let's dive into it. We talked about it in 29, 30, and 31. Honestly, I'm gonna give you guys just kind of a quick overview. Maybe throw a thing in there or one or two things, but 28 is kind of where we're going to hone in. But Job is in it. He's going through it. In chapter 29, this is basically your breakdown. Job is longing for the former blessings that he had. He just, reminiscing on how good he had it. He moves on. He's longing for former respect, like people respecting me. Now, I mean, he literally says in prior chapters, people are gathering around just to see my situation. He's like, he literally says men's mouths are gaped open when they see, kind of what he's going through.
Yeah.
He's striving for justice. He's longing for a long life. He feels like his days are numbered. His remembrance of his days of counsel and leadership, like places he used to be in places of leadership. That's pretty much chapter 29 is a lot of reminiscing. And I guess that would be a season that you would go through in a personal fight of, man, I remember how it used to be.
Yeah.
I remember it wasn't always like this.
Yeah.
You know?
Like what went wrong?
Yeah. Absolutely. And then oh man, you know, as much as he has completely destroyed every argument that one of his friends has brought to him, even though you may not necessarily see it written down here, you just have to assume that while Job is doing all this, I wonder how many times he goes, like maybe to himself, are they right?
Yeah.
Have I done something?
Yeah.
I mean, just because one thing that his friends point out, like even though they've been wrong, their kind of main argument is, Job, it's one thing to go through a trial, but dude, look at what is going on with you. That has to be something that you are doing. And I can't help to think, but Job might be sitting back going, is it something that I've done?
Yeah.
Do I have a lack of faith? Have I been disobedient? Like, all these things.
Yeah. I definitely have related to this. I mean, just Job in general, when it comes to suffering. And as you're talking, I'm thinking about the season that I've been through personally with the loss of our twins in March, and just the things that I've processed through, and those same questions that in this story, Job's friends are asking him, and kind of pointing at him. And in this case, in our case, I don't necessarily hear my friends saying that, but you do hear those whispers, and it's from the enemy because you know that they're not true, but you can't help but say, what have is there something that I have done? If the effectual fervent prayer of a righteous man has great power when it is working, then why didn't my prayer work? Like that was literally a journal entry that I read this morning.
Yeah.
And then not even 2 days later, I wrote, I have so much joy, I can't explain it. And then 2 days after that, there's tear marks on the journal.
Yeah.
It's kind of, it's very strange that, anybody who's gone through suffering, it doesn't necessarily have to be grief of loss, or it could be a divorce, it could be whatever, situation that you're going through. But just like Job, you see him going up and down, like you were just talking about. It's very easy to relate to that. And in this situation where Job's friends are pointing their fingers at him, that's the voice of the enemy in us.
Yeah.
And it can be difficult to fight those questions,
Yeah.
Like why? It's kind of messed up to think that God made a deal with the devil and and Job was I know that's not the probably correct theological wording of it, but that is pretty much what happened. He said, test him. And I'm thinking to myself, God, please don't test me anymore. I can't say that I would be like Job and end up saying, blessed be the name of the Lord.
Sure.
You say that now, but then when you're in the thick of it,
there it is.
It's tough to say that.
Yeah.
It's tough to see people that, and I'm getting ahead of myself, but it's chapter 31. He says, is not calamity for the unrighteous and disaster for the workers of iniquity?
Yeah.
Does not he see my ways and number all my steps? It's so hard to see somebody else, especially people who are not walking with the Lord, to walk in a season that you prayed for and that you long for and that you're not getting.
Yeah.
It's difficult for me to see people on social media who do not serve the Lord, who have given birth to twins and have perfect, and we're blessed. I'm not disregarding that. But you do think to yourself, why me? What have I done?
Yeah.
Why am I experiencing calamity when all I have done is commit my entire life to serving you?
And go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I've committed everything. And I see Job saying that, and you feel icky when you say that, because it's so many people serve the Lord and so many people go through different seasons, but it is a thought that passes through your head,
I know, absolutely. And then in Job 21, I think we covered that in a Wednesday night session. The entire chapter is Job wrestling with that. And he even kind of throws it back on his friends, where he goes, it might be Bildad or Zophar, one of those two, but he's like, you guys have told me that the ways of the wicked are cut short, but I've seen the wicked have a long, prosperous life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And but you made a good point, and this is a perfect timing just to go ahead and just dive into it. Chapter 30, chapter 31, we were talking about it. There's a lot of this questions that Job has, a lot of introspection, and just I would just encourage you to kind of go through and read it. But I'm telling you, read read chapter 29, 30, and 31, and then go back and read
Then
chapter
go back.
28.
Yeah.
And so, because you said something that I feel like is the essence of chapter 28, and that is, I think we have to go through those questions and go through those seasons and go through all of those fights of faith where we're up and down, because we're getting to the point where we are mining out a truth.
Yeah.
Right. And so I made this point in chapter 28. If you look at the words that Job uses from verse 1 down to verse 10, I'm not going to read every single thing, but he's talking about wisdom. Verse 1, surely there is a man. All right. You keep going down in verse 2, it's out of the earth. You go to verse 3, searches out to the farthest limits. Verse 4, there are shafts in a valley away from where everyone lives. A little bit further in verse 4, they are far away from mankind. Verse 5, underneath it is turned up as by fire. Verse 7, talking about animals that can only see on the surface. That path no bird of prey knows. Falcon's eyes haven't seen it. Proud beasts can't walk over it. Lions haven't trampled over it. Verse 9, overturns mountains by the roots, cuts out channels. Everything here is saying the wisdom that Job is seeking is not on the surface.
Yeah.
You have to mine it out. You have to dig it out. You have to search it out. And even when you start searching, it's at the farthest limit. It's in the deepest mine.
Yeah.
And I, thank you for sharing, your story. And I do see so much of this process with what you've shared with Job, as in, page 1 is joyful. Page 3 is tearful, but it feels like, because it feels the same with Job, and ultimately we know the end of the story with Job, but God is leading him to this place of he doesn't necessarily get an answer, but he gets like this explanation.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I think something that I've learned, and something that actually Brother Nelson kind of prayed over me, was there is a, I guess the word is joy, but you can find joy in the why.
Mm-hmm.
In the why is this happening, and in the why, like there is joy in rooting out and discovering why the things that happen to us. Yeah. And I've experienced some of the joy. Like I said, I wrote down that I have joy, but it's a strange, I've never been, I'll just be honest with you. Like I was kind of, I did go through a season of anger with God, just kind of like, why, I know you didn't allow this to happen, but why didn't you stop it from happening? And it took me a while to get to a place where I felt, even though I had gone through so many emotions with the Lord that I'd never experienced before, I did get to a point where I felt closer to Him, Yeah. And like I said, I don't think He causes these bad things to happen, but sure, He uses the bad things to create something better in us, and create a story that we can tell, that somebody else can be ministered out of, Yeah. But just the joy in the why, that was just, as he's asking all these questions in chapter 29, 30, and 31, and even he's asking it in 28, basically, where is wisdom? Where is it? And I think that's the key to the suffering that we go through, is asking the Lord for wisdom and asking Him to reveal the wisdom in these seasons. Like, how do I process this? Yeah. What emotions do I have, and how do I get a hold of them? Yeah. You said something that it's very reminiscent of something that Job talks about, is, finding joy in the why. Is, yes, I think one of the places that comes from is knowing that you're still kept by Him. Yeah. Because while it is true that Job is suffering, it is also equally true that Job is being sustained. Yeah. Job talks about his physical condition. He says he looks like a shadow, but he is still here to describe himself looking like a shadow. Yeah. And so I think that might be part of,
some of the joy that comes from mining out wisdom is knowing I'm still kept by you. I'm still here, underneath your authoritative hand and your guiding hand. And he just talks about like the weightiness and how much it means. Like in verses 13 through 19, talking about wisdom and understanding. Man does not know its worth. It is not found in the land of the living. The deep, it's not with me. The sea, it's not with me either. It can't be bought. It can't be weighed. It can't be valued. There's no equal. You can't exchange for it. There's no price for it. There's no equal to it. I mean, he just goes on and on and on about how rare of a jewel that real wisdom and understanding is.
Yeah.
And, you kind of get to this point of, well, who knows where it is? Well, he gives you the answer in verse 23. God understands the way to it, and he knows its place.
Yeah.
So like, again, mining out and finding out truth and understanding and wisdom, even in those most difficult of battles and struggles that sometimes we go through. We see here from Job, man, if you will mine it out, if you will search and seek it, I love how he doesn't say you're going to find the answer, but you're going to find him.
Yeah.
You're going to find this. And honestly, if you haven't been through something that just completely turns everything upside down, you don't know how to fill in the blank.
Yeah.
You're going to find another level of him. You're going to find something deeper of God that no one else knows unless you kind of been there, done that.
Yeah.
Type thing.
Yeah. And I'll be honest with you, I haven't found that yet.
You're still mining.
I'm still mining. I mean, I might wake up tomorrow and have immense joy and write that down in my journal, but I'm still searching.
Yeah.
I'm still, and I do. You see little glimmers of hope and just kind of like, okay, I see you, Lord. But I think there's things that we won't get the answer to why until we get to heaven.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But that's my thing. Like, cause you could go on, not even just personally, but why can't there be peace in Haiti?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, why are our children literally living on the streets trying to find a place that's safe and they're all separated? Like, why is that happening? But there's a peace somewhere in there and a joy somewhere in there in the why. Mm-hmm. And you just got to keep searching it out.
Yeah. And you bring up this point of, you have to stay there. You have to search it out. When I was reading through chapter 28, he gets to the end. Did I say chapter 28? Yeah, chapter 28. He says in verse 28, and he said to man, behold, the fear of the Lord, that is wisdom. So there's your wisdom, fear of the Lord, and to turn away from evil is understanding. So the idea is like, this is where we start. This is where we stay. We start with the fear of the Lord and shunning evil. We stay in this place. And then we start mining. And then you kind of brought it out, the question of, well, how long do we mine? That's a great question.
Yes.
Luke chapter 15. Luke chapter 15, there was a lost sheep. How long did that shepherd search for the sheep? And the answer is until.
Yeah.
We don't know how long, but he didn't stop until he found it. How long did that woman in the next story search for her coin? Until she found it. How long did that father go to the end of the hilltop every day looking for his prodigal son? Until he came home. You know what I mean? And it's that idea of, which again, it's one of those levels of knowing God that you just have to experience, is you mine until.
Yeah.
And like you said, tomorrow your axe might hit that diamond, but it might be a week, it might be a year, but then there's also that joy and comfort knowing like, I have a co-miner in this with me. I have someone helping me swing.
And that's the thing, like, make sure you're mining in the right areas. You need to be searching in the Word. You need to be trying to find the answers and trying to search in the right places. I think a lot of the times, just like Pastor Daniel said Sunday, obviously counseling is totally okay. Mm-hmm. And Christian counseling is totally, there's a place for it in the church. Just make sure you're searching in the right places, because the world will tell you something completely different.
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
that's why, like he's been talking about, we're countercultural. So just search in the right places, talk to the right people, make sure you're talking to people who know the Word of God and who are experienced in the Word of God and who are going to encourage you, and not take you off a path that you shouldn't be going down.
Yeah, John says it in almost every book that he wrote. In John, in 1 John, 2 John, 3 John, there's something in there where he says something to the effect of the Holy Spirit is your teacher.
Yes.
Like if you mine and search these things out, he is going to lead you, not necessarily, and you said it earlier, and I loved it so much, not necessarily to an answer.
Yeah.
But he's going to lead you to understanding.
Yeah.
And when like I get this picture of, because sometimes Jay, my 8-year-old, he'll come home and he'll have like math homework and, you know, got to get supper going, got to get the routine going, the dog's barking, like just, you know, everything's going on. And I'm tempted to go, all right, answer's 5. You know, just tonight, let me just give you the answers.
Yeah.
If I just give him answer, he's going to continuously have question.
Yeah. Where's the lesson learned in that?
Right. But if I teach him how to work 1 or 2 out, that's going to be sufficient for a whole lot of questions that he has.
Yeah, unrelated to math.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
It teaches so many different things, yeah.
If he gets the understanding, that's going to be a great answer to a lot of questions that he has. Even when he doesn't have the answer he's looking for, understanding is still a great answer.
Yeah.
You know?
And I think it's important to look back at the seasons of not just suffering, but just any season where you have trial and ask the Lord to reveal to you the things that you learned.
Yeah.
What are the things, God, that you've taught me in this season?
Yeah.
What are the things that I didn't know before that I know now? And if you really ask the Lord, I truly believe that he'll reveal it to you.
He's your teacher. He's going to.
Yeah. Because I look back and I think control, patience, anxiety, these are things that seem to not be as difficult for me to deal with now that I've gone through, you know, the season that I've been through. There's new things now that I'm dealing with, but there's things that I can look back and say, the Lord faithfully taught me lessons inside of this.
Yeah.
You know, he used this horrible season to teach me, you know, that I don't have control.
Yeah.
That I can't control what's happening. No matter how hard I try, I cannot control it.
Yeah.
That there is so much joy in the waiting, that there's so much things to be found in the waiting season.
Yeah.
And I could go on and on. I mean, I probably could sit down and write it all out, but yeah, I mean, there's something to be learned for sure.
Yeah. And I don't think you can say it any better than that. And again, really appreciate you sharing your story and opening up. And there's just so much insight that you get, you know, when you're having a conversation with somebody that you know is just like Job, as we're reading through it, is in it. Yeah. And, you know, it's just been great insight. So, Pastor Blake, really appreciate you being with us today.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you guys also for joining in, and, you know, continue to stay tuned. We have more coming from the book of Job. And remember, this is the Bible. Every word on every page whispers the name Jesus.